Well, let's start. So I'm welcome everyone and good morning, good evening. I understand it's 6 p.m. Uh, in India. I am getting an echo, so I hope that the system is okay. And if you could mute your microphones, that would be helpful. Ria, your microphone is on. Um, and the session today is about internal migration in India. And we have an eminent group of panelists from all over the world who have devoted a lifetime to this topic. It's a great pleasure for me to see all the panelists, and some of them I have worked very closely with in the past. Very happy to see that. And it's also good to see that we are addressing a topic that around this time last year was very much in the headlines, and you know, the difficulties that many migrants faced during the COVID-19 outbreak is not unprecedented. It happens all the time, and you know,
This meeting
whenever
is
there
being
is a
recorded.
problem somewhere, political strife or natural disaster, then it is the internal migrants who suffer the most almost immediately. Of course, in a small country context, internal migration quickly becomes international migration. So we then start talking about internally displaced people or internationally displaced people. And you know, when they are displaced by disasters that are not necessarily according to the convention that UNHCR and the Refugee Convention uses, then these people usually fall through the cracks. So anyways, I wouldn't take long time to talk about the substance of it. We will hear from the panelists. Just to say that the phenomenon of migration is intimately connected with development. And a simple point is that you know, development, if by that we mean economic growth, that usually comes with people movement. The lagging sectors would be sending out people, or let's call it this way, lagging places. From there, people would move to leading places where growth is higher. This is just the normal nature of things. So migration and development can't be separated. There is some effort to separate that at the international context, but usually it fails. And that's why we have a lot of distortions. So very important point that migration and development are intimately linked. And the combined with that, the fact that it is not normal for people to just decide to move, go away from the near and dear ones, just because you want to find a job somewhere. It's not normal, it's not natural, it's not actually painless. That's why people don't like to move too far. That's why you find internal migration is much larger than international migration. And again, people don't like to go that far. So there is a lot of cross-border migration and intra-regional migration. Okay, so those couple of points I wanted to mention at the outset to set the stage. And also wanted to highlight a couple of things that we would be doing under KNOMAD, which is the Global Knowledge Partnership on Migration and Development. Internal migration is one of the 9 themes that we address. And under this theme, we collaborate very closely with the UN Habitat. And Rajan, Professor Rajan is the chair of this thematic working group. And we also have Philippe from UN Habitat as the co-chair, and Sonia Plaza is the focal point for this theme. So they are all around in this meeting. And also I wanted to acknowledge that Professor Robert Lucas from Boston University is also a very active participant of this group and general in KNOMAD. But for this particular group, he has he's about to publish a major contribution, a book that would be coming out. That would be a separate event. So this brief is this session is based on a policy brief of the same name, internal migration in India, integrating migration with development and urbanization policies. But we would go beyond that policy brief as well. That policy brief is on the on the KNOMAD website. So we have 5 panelists and about an hour. So I suggest that the panelists please limit their interventions to about 5 minutes. I know 5 minutes is not a lot of time to say a lot of things. So let's try to restrict it to the main 3 points. That would be very, very useful if we can succinctly present 3 key points each. And without much ado, let me give the floor to our first panelist and the chair of the thematic working group on internal migration. He's also the chairman of the International Institute for Migration and Development in India, Professor Irudaya Rajan. Over to you, Rajan.